Coming up today on the ROL Show.
And not only cooking, I love creating. I love thinking about that kind of stuff. And then I realized I had a really good palate for this. And I had a teacher for the first time. There was a true teacher. And Don took me under his wing, and he spent a lot of time teaching me how to be a chef. And as a waiter, it was great because I'm really to understand how to explain all this food. But think about what I got an opportunity to do. I was with a guy who's a very famous chef. I got to work there for 3.5 years. I worked there for 4, but I worked there for 3.5 years with him directly as his waiter in training, and we did menu changes every week.
Wow.
I learned thousands of recipes. Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Hey guys, you're gonna love this interview I did today. The interview I did today is with David Nolan. David Nolan is a super successful entrepreneur. He suffered from severe dyslexia. How he overcame, listen to his story, how he overcame dyslexia, and he became a Starbucks baker. He just exited for close to $200 million. Amazing story, amazing gentleman. He had a successful company and almost lost it too. And how did he do that? Also not losing his family at the same time. So please listen to the podcast. If you like it, please subscribe. Hey guys, let's make David I'm gonna make him the spotlight. There you are.
Hey,
let's welcome David Nolan, guys. He's a good friend of mine, uber successful gentleman. So, David, we have about 20 people here on the call here. A lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of Kingdom people, not some Kingdom people. Guys, so David, tell us. So, this Starbucks, this business that you started, you created. So, take us, and also, I want the people here to know. Because David actually has severe dyslexia, guys, severe. And how he overcame that. He was bullied, he was picked on quite a bit when he was younger. So David, tell us about just struggling through dyslexia in the business world.
Oh, okay. Well, I tell you what, when you if we go back to just real quick background.
Yeah, the floor is yours, brother.
Okay. So when I was 8 years old, I was with my mom and dad at a parent-teachers conference. And the teacher told my mom and dad, said, Mr. and Mrs. Nolan, your son's failing 3rd grade. And if he repeats it, he's going to fail it again. We need to put him in a special needs class. And he'll start that on Monday, and that'll help him. And he'll do that for half a day. Up until lunchtime, then he'll come back in and he'll do the rest of the day with the class. In those days, you stayed with your class. You might move classrooms, but you stayed with the class, right? So I'm in 3rd grade. So Monday morning, I go back in the regular classroom, and my teacher looks at me and says, David, you're not my student anymore. She grabs me by the hand. She walks me out the door and down the corridor outside across the other side of the school, where I'd never been before. Opens the door, brings me in, and pulls me in front of her between me and the new teacher. She goes, this is your new student, David. And she turns and she walks out. And I remember her leaving the door, and I'm watching her walk away down the corridor through the windows of the classroom. And I don't know what just happened. And then I look around, I see on the table, it looks like they got a piece of wood with a shoestring on it, and they're trying to tie a shoe. And I look over and I see other people. I see a kid wetting his pants right off the bat.
Wow.
And I see and I've never seen this before, but I see a kid in a wheelchair that's kind of mangled up, and he's moaning to the teacher, the assistant teacher, I guess, at the time. I didn't understand at the time. And she's like, what are you trying to say? I don't understand what you're saying. And so, and these kids are much older than me. They're not 8 years old. They're not peers. They're much older than I am. And I have not experienced children like this before, or kids like this before. And what I'll learn over the next few years is, I knew my simple life skills, how to pour a bowl of cereal in the morning, how to comb my hair, brush my teeth, take a bath, get myself dressed. These guys were learning that. These guys and girls are trying to learn that. And in those days, it wasn't called special needs. It was retarded, is what we were called.
Wow.
And that's what they thought I was. And so for 3 years, I went to that. And, so I kind of had to deal with what that looked like, to try to figure out, to understand. I knew, the teachers say he's lazy. He's, they give you all kinds of nicknames, but he's lazy and he's no good. And he's just a bad kid and everything else. And you start to hear those things about yourself, and you begin to live those things out, right? he won't try, he won't work hard. And what's interesting is that my numbers, my math skills, I was brilliant. I saw numbers, I understood numbers. I just got numbers. So my math has always worked, but I couldn't read. And later, in fact, that became a problem because in math, I was doing really well until you started having to read where the train is on the track, how many stops it takes. I'm having to read it. And all of a sudden, I started failing math. And they thought, well, he's just, being lazy again and just doesn't care, doesn't want to try. And that was never the case. I just couldn't read. So it was tough. It was very difficult in the beginning of those years. But what you learn is how to compensate for those things. And when you're younger, my compensation became being very angry and keeping people kind of away from me, because I'd rather think of me as an angry kid that you didn't want to mess with than being called stupid or dumb or something else. And I didn't want them to know I couldn't read, right?
Yeah.
So by the time I get to 11th grade, and this is an interesting fact that I find later on, in the 60s, third grade is when you really started learning to read. That's when they started teaching reading. Before then, they're teaching you a few things, but reading is when it really starts to kick off. You start practicing reading. That's in third grade. In 11th grade, when I quit high school, and I'm 17 years old, and the principal made me go to all my teachers and get what my grade levels were. And in reading, I was in third grade. So I hadn't improved all those years.
Wow.
So, yeah. So I quit high school. And then my dad said, well, you can't just stay home, go get a job. And so I thought, well, I'll just go get a restaurant job. So I went in and I got a job washing dishes. He said I could start on like a Thursday afternoon. It was like a Monday. And I get home and I tell Mom and Daddy, I got it at the Spanish Inn. I've got a restaurant job. I'm going to start washing dishes and maybe come waiter later on. And so I get home and I go to dinner and have dinner with Mom and Dad. And then I go back and I remember the paper he gave me that I had folded up in my back pocket, and I opened it up. And I'm supposed to fill this out before I go in on Thursday. And I look at it. It looks like a test to me, right? Well, I don't realize until later it's an application. And I can't read. I can't fill it out. So I wadded it up and threw it away. And I just got sometime that week, I got my dad's, we had an edger and a mower. I put it in the back of a truck of my car, and I started driving around looking for yards to mow. And I built a several $1 million company based off that. In the next 2 years, I'll build a huge company mowing yards, and I had apartment complexes. I had multiple crews going and stuff. And I was about 19 years old at the time when I kind of walked away from that company. So
go for it.
No, that's okay. It's just kind of, that was the start of, I realized, everybody says, well, you're a brilliant entrepreneur. No, it's not really true. I was a survivalist. I had to figure out, what am I going to do? Because it's not stay in school, make good grades, go to college, get an education, and that's a road you're on. That's not my road. That wasn't giving me my options. I can't go to a job filing application, so that's not an option for me. So what am I going to do? And I thought, well, I'm going to have to make this thing happen. And that's kind of what I did.
So talk to the group here. There's some people here that have, talk to the person here that has an idea that's afraid to actually implement it, and that's kind of lost in life, and they don't know where they are, and they really want to become successful. What's some advice that you would give the person on the audience today?
Well, it's interesting because there's lots of ways I can take that, right? That conversation. But let me say how I did it. When I wanted to get to where I was going to go, what I did, how I got there, right? So, when you're in the landscape business, you find as you're meeting, you have relationships. You're mowing a yard, but maybe you get into with a contractor and say, hey, can you take some of our contracting jobs? And then you see guys that are doing roofing. So you meet some roofing companies, you meet painters. And I thought, well, I want to do something like that. So then I could talk to those guys in those days. And you're not filling an application now. You're just talking to the contractor, and he goes, I can put you on. If you want to start painting for me, I'll put you on $10 an hour, whatever it was in those days. And we painted. And I always took it in that way, I was able to get a job, right? So what I wanted to do, if I wanted to learn about painting a house, I'd get a job on a crew, and I'd paint a house I'd paint two or three houses. I would learn the cost. I'd learn the labor. I learned the people, learn the time, how long it should take to paint a house. I learned all the ins and outs of it. And so that was my way of educating myself. When I wanted to do roofing, I got on the roof, and I actually did roofing for several. And And then I opened up a company that I was roofing, painting, and I'd hire people to do it for me. But I understood that work, right? But then it took me finding a mentor to really launch me out there. Somebody who really kind of believed in me and launched me out there. The other thing is, and I don't want this to be misunderstood, because part of this is true, part of it's not true, in the sense that I didn't know what my passion was. I was doing a survival thing. I just didn't like construction work. It wasn't my thing, right? So while I was doing that, I would bartend at one of my dad's nightclub or restaurant at night. My brother and my dad opened up a couple of nightclubs. So I'd bartend at night, mow yards during the day. And during that time is when I had an opportunity to go to work for a guy named Don Thompson at Blaine Thompson Restaurant. There was two guys that worked there. Don was the chef, and Blaney was the waiter. And Blaney couldn't work there anymore. He got sick and couldn't work there anymore with emphysema. And so they were looking for a waiter. And so they just happened to be in the bar where I was at when they were talking about it. I said, hey, I want to look at that job. It was this really fancy French restaurant, right? So I go over the next day, I meet with Don. I say, Don, I'd love to be your waiter. I'd like to be a waiter here. And I said, I've got I bartend at my dad's club on Friday and Saturday night, but the rest of them, I'm wide open. And at the time, I was mowing yards during the day and doing construction during the day, and I was mowing yards or bartending at night, and I wanted to do something else. So I got in there anyway. I get in with Don, and Don goes, "Yeah, I'll put you on." And what I didn't realize was I was going to be the only waiter in that room. If I didn't realize, and we're going to do like 90 dinners a night, and they're 5-course meals.
Wow!
And he's going to change the menu every week. That's when I thought, "Oh, what have I got myself into?" And it's interesting too, because the first time I'm coming in, I'm sitting in the dining room, and he's talking to me. He hands me a piece of paper, and how this worked. And I'm going to land on this in a minute. But how this restaurant worked is you have a chalkboard, and you set the chalkboard in front of the table. And the reason he did that is because he changed the menu every week. So he'd write out the menu of the board, and he'd write out the 5 items. And so there's 5 items to choose from. And then everybody got a soup and a salad, an appetizer, a dessert, and a palate cleanse, and a wine flight if they wanted it. So so he hands me the first night, I'm going to start with tables, a list of the descriptions of those meals. And I took it, and I walked in the dining room. I thought, I'm just going to go tell him. And I've nearly discussed I can't read to anybody before. My dad did, they knew. But once I got to high school, I didn't advertise I couldn't read, right?
Yeah, of course.
This is the first time I walked in. I said, Don, look, here's the truth, man. You gave this to me. I have no idea what I'm looking at. I can't read this stuff. Can you just tell me what it is? Well, okay, yeah. So that's a steak. It's Béarnaise sauce on a tenderloin. And that's a chicken poticara is what you're going to have here. And that's the shrimp with a pepper cheese sauce. And so he starts explaining it to me. And he said, "You can't read, huh?" I said, "No, I don't." He goes, "Okay, well, just why don't you come in? Let me explain some of these dishes for you." So then he comes by the stove, and he starts explaining all these dishes and these sauces and all these things he's going to be preparing that night. And so, I got it. I understood it. And I visually looked at it and tasted it and saw it and watched it. So after that night was over, I said, "Hey, Don, man, I would love to learn how to cook like you do. Is there any option for me to come in during the day and do that?" So within a few weeks, I got rid of all my businesses during the day, and I went and I shadowed him for the next 4 years.
Mentor.
And I learned, but here's what I learned though. I loved cooking. And not only cooking, I love creating. I love thinking about that kind of stuff. And then I realized I had a really good palate for this. And I had a teacher for the first time. There was a true teacher. And Don took me under his wing, and he spent a lot of time teaching me how to be a chef. And as a waiter, it was great because I'm really going to understand how to explain all this food. But think about what I got an opportunity to do. I was with a guy who's a very famous chef. I got to work there for 3.5 years. I worked there for 4, but I worked there for 3.5 years with him directly as his waiter in training. And we did menu changes every week.
Wow.
I learned thousands of recipes. Yeah, it was pretty amazing. So
that's so interesting because everyone listening, you listen to David speak and how he became the Starbucks baker. But look where God positioned him to actually in the right. I learned from my wife recently that in the old Hebrew text there is no word for coincidence, David.
No, not at all.
No word, right? And so it's everything that's happened to you, bad or good, is supposed to happen to you. right? You could easily been depressed about being dyslexic, right? But no, that actually made you actually super successful because you worked harder. And how he positioned you to be in an area in a restaurant to actually nurture the gift that God gave you. So yeah, so take it from there. I mean,
Okay, so
yeah,
that's brilliant. What you're saying is brilliant, and it's going to tie into this whole story, right? So then 3.5 years later, and I only talked to Bellini one time on the phone. So I never got to meet him, and they were a couple, and they've been together for years. And so this is their business, and Bellini he dies, right? He passes away, and Don was pretty devastated by the whole thing. And so about 3 months after Hector died, Bellini died, Don came to me and said, "Hey, Dave, he goes, I want you to hire a new waiter. I want you to be the executive chef here at Bellini Thompson." And I said, "You want me to do what?" He goes, "I want you to take over the cooking at Bellini Thompson. I want to back my schedule off. I don't want to be here as much." And I said, "Okay." Well, I said, "Well, man," I said, "Don, are you sure? I'm ready." He goes, "Yeah, you're good. Well, you're good. I'll be here. What I want to do is kind of like to shadow you and let you do the thing, and we'll talk through recipes. We'll talk through ideas." So then he started letting me go out, and he'd follow me. And of course, since you change the menu every week, like we didn't do strawberry shortcake in December, we did strawberry shortake, in May, June when it comes out, or peaches when they come out in June. We would do very seasonal type items. And so we go out, and he had already taught me how to cook, how to pick vegetables, how to pick fruits, how to pick things out, how to create things, how to pick the meats, the fish, and the poultry, and stuff like that. So I would go out every day, and we'd shop actually for fresh foods every day for our restaurant. It wasn't like we ordered from Cisco. We never had a Cisco truck come in. We went to meat markets. We went to farmers markets. We got fresh fruits and stuff like that. And that's how I learned to do this. Now, we do 30 dinners in a week. We do 90 dinners on weekends. And then if we ran out of something, we ran out of something. So anyway, we're working through this. And about 3 months into this whole thing, so this is about 6 months after when he died, he came to me one day and he told James, he yells at James, he goes, "Hey, James, have a great weekend." And this is a Friday night, okay? It's around 5:30. I got a demi-glaze I'm trying to bring down, which is a typical thing to reduce. I have a few minutes here. I got parties coming in, starting at 6 o'clock. And let me back up. For the last 3 months, Don would walk with me and shop with me. And then what he would do, because this is the thing I had to be taught, not how to create the product, because I already learned the recipes. What I had to be taught was timing, right? So for those 3 months, what he would do is James would be the waiter in the front. I would be there. Of course, I'm the guy behind the stove cooking and getting everything ready to go. And you got to think, I'm one guy cooking everything. We have a dishwasher. I'm the cook. And James is the waiter, right, in the front of the house. That's how it was for us. There's only one guy in the back. And so what Don would do is we'd all be ready to go. And then he'd take his apron off and hang it, and he'd open up a book and kind of start reading the book, sit in a stool off the side to me, about 6 feet away from me. And then he would say, "Hey, David, table 12 came in. You need to get your salads out. Of course, you got to put stuff in to get salmon and salamander, get the melted cheese, and it's time." And so he was teaching me the timing of everything, right? Mm-hmm. How to put because I did all the plating for the salads. I did all the entree plates. We did all the soups. I set up all the desserts. James did nothing. I handled all the food. He was just a carrier and a waiter, but he was very busy in the dining room, right? Because there's one guy out there. But in this restaurant too, when you came to the restaurant at 7 o'clock, you might leave at 9:30, 10 o'clock. It's your evening. This is the restaurant you go for the evening. This is not, you're not going to go there and then go to a show after. This is your evening, right? And so anyway, he starts teaching me that. So one night, it's a Friday night, and I'm in this busy rush trying to get going. He knows I'm busy, and it's hectic. And he tells James, "Have a good weekend." And he comes up to me, he gives me a big bear hug, pushes me on the cheek, and pushes an envelope in my chest. And he said, "David," goes, "you took me through a very difficult time. And Bellini and I want you to know how much we love you. And thank you for the time you brought us through. We were able to keep this business going. And now that he's gone, and you're giving me the freedom to kind of do what I want to do." He said, "I really want you to know how much we love you for that and how that was." He said, "I'll see you Monday." Okay. So I take the envelope and I throw it on a prep table because I am busy, right? I said, "Okay, man, I'll see him." I said, first of all, I said, "Are you sure I'm ready to do this?" Because I was a little panicked, right? And I thought, well, okay. He goes, "No, you got this, man. I've watched you for months. You got this, but you need to do this on your own. That's time." I'm like, "Well, this is a heck of a time to put me in that pot." And so it could have been a slow Monday night. It's a Friday and I got a weekend coming up. So he takes off, and then I remember watching him go out the door. I remember looking at as the light came in the door, seeing his 2 tennis shoes walk out. I remember how I scanned it. I'll never forget the images here. of his feet leaving. And then Monday morning, he's not there Monday morning. And around noon, I'm like, I'm calling for him. I'm calling Tommy, calling guys he knows. And then Tommy said, he goes, "Did you read the envelope yet?" And I said, no, I hadn't. He goes, read the envelope, and I'll come see you. I'll be up there in a few minutes. I said, all right. So I get the envelope. Inside the envelope's a letter, and it's stating, this was dated a year and a half ago, before I got the letter, thanking me for what I did to help them get through this time. We wanted to make sure you were ready. And when Don thought you were ready, you're going to have the restaurant. Don and I decided if one of us passes away, the other one doesn't want to keep the restaurant going. That's always been a kind of an idea that has a pact they had. And he gave me the title to the restaurant, had the keys to the bank accounts, had the stuff to check out. He had everything transferred over to my name. I had to legally go finalize it, but he had everything done. Tommy was a notary on for him, so he came down and he gave me the restaurant.
Wow!
Yeah.
Wow!
It's amazing.
That's absolutely amazing. And then guys, I know this story very well because Dave's helped me out with a lot of other entrepreneurs. And so David had a very successful restaurant. Where was it again? It was in Dallas, right?
No, it was in Midland, Texas. He was Bellini and Thompson, but we ended up moving locations, and so we renamed it. My wife and I. Then I get married. My wife and I renamed it Nolan's Fine Dining, and that's what we became known as. And Don had let me know that you can keep the name if you want to, but he suggested put my name on it instead of his name and move on.
So Dave,
that was a suggestion from him. So I do that in 6 months from then. I'll do that.
Beautiful. Tell the audience of now how that shaped you and put you in the track to start working, in the bakery world. And so for you don't know, David just launched he helped another entrepreneur scale their business. Now he became partners with them. His products actually are going to be in Sprouts. Are they in Sprouts already, David? They're in there now, right?
They have a version of stuff in Sprouts, but I've rebranded everything, regrouped it all, and now they were like in a couple of DCs. They were actually losing that business when I went into to negotiate with to help them. A business coach called me up and said, "Would you go meet with these guys?" And I did. And I said, "Well, you're going to really need a lot more help than just a couple of weekends talking to me. This is where you're at. This is what's going to happen." So that was 6 months ago, and that was in February last year, I guess. And then by March, the broker said they had told us he had told us in March that you're not going to make it. They're going to let you go. And then I kind of got on the phone with them and said, "Look, here's what we're going to do, guys." And I kind of explained to the broker, give them a shot. I'm taking them from where they are to another production facility. They won't miss any more POs. Give us a couple more POs. I'll make sure those pallets get hit, and we'll get them We'll get them on the truck. We'll get them out there. And so he said, "Okay, we'll give you another shot at it." So we did, and within the timeline, we did exactly what we said we're going to do. But I told them, what you're doing isn't scalable. This product, you can't scale this nationally. You have a great idea, you have a great business and a great company, great opportunity, but you got to get into something that can actually scale. What you're doing is very difficult on a scaling level in the bakery business, right? So let's ride what you have now, stay there, and let me revamp all your products and let's rebrand it. And so we did, and now we're a national player with the Sprouts, and we're about to roll into HP, Publix, and we're going to roll this stuff out all over the country.
So you guys, listen. When you listen to David speak, the reason why I brought David on, he's such a great example. For one, I mean, his story can go on. Is literally, I have hours of tape with David. And one of the things I love about him is, he now is a business coach, a high-level business coach. He's in the bakery world. That's the gift that God gave him. So, David, take us back how the Starbucks, how that all came about. And if you can also share the story of like when the business wasn't doing well and the one thing you did with your wife to really get it going. I really want him to share the story. And then I would love to open it up to questions and answers from the audience. But take us back to like when you were starting the bakery business and then, the Starbucks all came about. How did that all come about?
Yeah, sure. So we have Nolan's Fine Dining, right? And then now when I met Delinda, I had just started going back to church, In fact, if I back up just a little bit more, I had walked away from church, walked away from God. I just, I had nothing to do with it. But my heart never felt like I could walk away from him. So I was always hinder towards him, but I wasn't living my lifestyle that way. And and by the time then I get with Don, I get the restaurant and I'm doing this, I realize God's maybe looking out for me, because this is not something I could have planned. It's not something I thought I was going to ever become. I never knew I was going to be an owner of a restaurant. So I thought, I am not blowing this opportunity. I love this. I don't like mowing yards. I don't want to go back to that if I don't have to, but I love what I'm doing. So I thought, well, I really need to be thankful to God. I need to tell him, I haven't spoke to you for a while, but I really want you to know I'm thankful to you that I have this business. And I understand I didn't get here on my own. And I'm seeing a little bit of a plan here. Now I'll see a bigger plan 10 years from this prayer, but I'm seeing a little bit of a plan here, God. And I said, look, I think now if I can get this thing successful, maybe, because I never thought I could get married. Maybe I could have a wife. Maybe I could have children, because I didn't know how to support that. Right. It was easy to put a backpack on and put a mow in your car and go mow yards. It's not that it's more complicated when you have a wife and children and that kind of a thing. You have to make sure you're going to have an income and support them. And I didn't feel confident in that. But as I'm saying this prayer, I look over and I see a woman. She's a cashier at Sam's. And I said, oh, Lord, if it could look like her, that'd be great. That's on a Wednesday. On a Saturday night, I meet her.
Wow.
I can go into that story a little bit if you want to, but anyway, I meet her. Well, let me share the story with you just real quick. So a friend of mine had called me. I hadn't been out to the nightclub in a long time, and a friend of mine called me up and said, "Look, he's got like a little restaurant. It's like a Bennigan's during the day. If you remember the old Bennigan's days, it's kind of a restaurant during the day, and it turns into a little bit of a nightclub at night." And he said that they're overloading the drawer and they're mispouring, and my numbers are way off my liquor, so they're stealing from me, right? He said, "Yeah, no one knows you there. Can you go over and just watch the registers and find out, kind of take a look for me and see who's stealing and how it's working?" And we know how to do the scams. We know that we're stealing money as a bartender. So I go in to look at this, and so I get a drink. I'm standing and I'm watching, and this girl walks up who I saw at Sam's, who I just prayed about how pretty she was.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and she's a waitress there. And so I said, "Hey, I saw you at Sam's today." She goes, "Yeah, I've been working there for a while. I also work here and I mow yards. And on the weekends, I sing gospel music with my family. We go to churches around Texas, West Texas, and we sing gospel music." And I'm thinking, "You're a Christian girl?" And she goes, "Yeah." I said, "Well, that's funny to meet a Christian girl on the bar." She goes, "Well, we have to make a living, right? So I'm going to school." So she's got 3 jobs, going to school, that kind of thing, right? So she finally asked me at one point what I do, and I told her. She goes, "Oh, that's that really expensive restaurant. I've heard about that restaurant." I said, "Well, it's not that expensive." She goes, "Well, I'll never be able to afford to go there." And I said, "I tell you what," I said, "you get you and a friend and come by and have dinner with me anytime you want on me. You just let me know when you end it." She goes, "Well, how about tomorrow night? I've got a date tomorrow night." I'm like, I'm thinking, okay, you're not understanding this conversation very well. So but it's Saturday night, so it's Sunday. I'm closed. Well, I'm closed on Sunday. I said, I love it. Let's do it Monday night. She goes, "Well, he's not being. He's in town. And he's wanting to go out tomorrow night." So I said, "Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. You come in tomorrow night, and I'll bring my waiter in. I'll open the restaurant for you guys. It'll be the 2 of you." And you have dinner on me. It'd be free, no problem. I'll have a bottle of wine. I'll set up some flowers. I'll put the fireplace on, whatever you want to do. And this is in June where it's hot out, but I'm going to make it romantic for you if you want. I said, "I'll do that for you tomorrow night if Monday night you come back and have dinner with me without him." And so then she realizes, okay, now I'm getting hit on. But she says yes. And so the next night they come in, they have dinner. And at the end of it, he wants to meet me. So he comes in the kitchen, shakes my hand, and they leave. And the next day I go to Linda at Sam's. I said, "Look," I said, "I don't want you coming to dinner tonight because you're of some deal we made. You want to come to dinner at the restaurant and have dinner with me? You do, because that's what you want to do." She said, "Well, I'm really tired from last night, and I'm really full from last night still. Do you mind if I come by Tuesday?" And I said, "Yeah, that'd be fine." So I thought I'd never probably see her again. Then some stalker at Sam's. But anyway, she comes in Tuesday night about 8 o'clock, and then the next day's Wednesday. That's the week since the time I met her. We were together every day for the following Wednesday. It's 2 weeks, and I asked her to marry me, and we got married 6 months later. And she's been my best friend ever since.
So David,
But she also brought me back to God. I understood a relationship with God, and her parents I've not met Christians like this before, and it was put me on the path. So you talk about the opportunity I have for that, to be able to meet her, to have the restaurant, and then God brings me back this direction to Him using the food, right? So food and all this becomes very important to me in how we live our lives. We're foodies, but we're also understand. How God reached out to me, right? So to move it forward, now we're married, and we're pregnant with our first child. It's in July, and our little church breaks out to revival. And there's 60, 70 people in this little church. We'll break out to this revival. And in the revival, I have not ever really heard from God before, and this wasn't audible, but I've not really ever. I pray, but I've been seeking it, but I really hadn't understood the conversation, how to have a conversation with Him at all. And I get these thoughts going in my mind, and it says, will you be Jory and Sue's retirement? And I'm thinking, so Jory and Sue is Delinda's mom and dad. They spent their entire life in ministry, in music ministry, right? And then he's because of his epilepsy, he was let go of a church. They don't have any retirement. They have no income coming in.
wow.
So they try to sing on weekends, make a little bit, and she works at Sam's as a demo woman, right? And Dylan is working, living home, and they're struggling financially. So he says to me, would you be their retirement? And I'm like, okay. And then I start thinking, God, this is not clearly not my thought. This is your thought. I'm assuming you're talking to me. And so I'm trying to figure this out. And I'm discussing with him. And he goes, yeah, I want you to take care of them the rest of your life. The rest of their lives, I want you to take care of them. I said, you know what? I said, I just got my Ford Explorer repossessed. So we're not in the greatest shape. I said, but yeah, I said, look, if we can open for dinner only, I can mow yards and they make extra money. So I said, yes, to the time. I said, yeah, I'll do that. I'll take care of that. Right. And so and then it went away. I didn't hear the thoughts anymore on that. And then a few nights later, the pastor, Scott Watson, came up to me, the guy did an evangelist. He looked at me, he said, Dave, when that baby's born, you're going to start a company. When you do, God trusts you with great wealth.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, you're talking to the wrong guy. I had no idea. I had no idea where this was about to go. And he said, and when the end times come, God wants you to be able to fund it. And He trusts you now for the money later. And I said, oh yeah, okay, good. And I remember leaving thinking to my wife, what kingdom is He talking about? When's it coming? What are we talking about? And I'm new at that. So she's trying to explain to me. Well, anyway, Tori's born December 6th, and on December 8th, I make a phone call to Sam Salsa Club. And between July and December, instead of mowing a yard, I actually had Sue, because we would go to her house on Sundays, and she'd cook a big brunch for everybody after church, and she always had these great desserts. I said, Sue, that brownie cheesecake that you make, why don't you make that and I'll sell it to the restaurant? It helps me not have to make dessert. It's easier to execute if you bake that. So she started baking desserts, and I was able to pay her to be my baker out of her kitchen at her apartment, right? Okay. And so she started doing that. Well, this cheesecake got famous there. Everybody loved the cheesecake. So on the menu, although I changed all the other items every week, and we would change the desserts too, I'd still change 2 or 3 of the choices, but I always had this cheesecake on the menu, and that was always the first thing to go. And in fact, we'd have people say, hey, I got a reservation at 9. Make sure I get those brownie cheesecakes. I want to purchase them now so I can have them, because I don't want to get there. I got a late reservation. I want those cheesecakes. So I go to Sam's Salsa Club with this brownie cheesecake, and I walk up. I ask for the manager. I said, "Hey, man," I said, "we sell a lot of these brownie cheesecakes. I would love to be able to make I think we could probably sell them at Sam's Salsa Club. It could be a Nolan's Fine Dining brownie cheesecake." And he goes, "Yeah, I know your restaurant." And he said, "We've been there a couple of times. It's a really great restaurant." And I said, "That's awesome." I said, "But I'd like to sell this. I can make them at the restaurant and sell it. As naive as I am here, I can sell them to your Sam's store." And he said, "Well, I can't make that decision. I love the idea. I can't make the decision." And he writes me.
You took action. I love it, man. Yes.
Well, he writes me a note. It says Bentonville, Arkansas, a phone number. That's all I got. He called this number, and if they say yes to that, I'd be glad to take this in. Tell them I told you, I gave you this number, and I wanted to look at this cheesecake, but I got to get this from Bentonville, Arkansas. At the time, I'm like, what is Bentonville, Arkansas? Except it's the headquarters of Sam's and Walmart, right?
Wow.
So on December 8th, I called them, and that's 7 months later. I called them, which is right after Tori was born, and I got a hold of a guy named Mike Denny answers the phone. And I'm explaining to Mike Denny. Now you got to remember, this is back when I only had they had probably less than 100 stores, maybe 150 stores, and they're growing. And so anyway, so Mike Denny said, "Well, tell me about the cheesecake." So I explained to him, and in those days they would take risks on smaller companies. They liked the stories, right? They wanted to do that. It's not quite the same anymore, but they like to do that kind of idea. So he said, "Well, just ship them to me." And I said, "Well, how about if I bring it to you?" So he set me an appointment for a month later. So January 10th, I go to see him, and they love the brownie cheesecake. And they put me in a 20-store test. Wow. And he said, if it goes well, then we're going to put you in the full system of Sam's Salsa Club, and you can grow the business. And it's going to be sold in the in-store bakery. He doesn't ask me, do you have a factory? He thinks it's still the restaurant. And he's going to put me in a 20-store test. And he orders 4,000 brownie cheesecakes.
4,000.
4,000. And I come home, and I walk into the restaurant for the first time. My brother's there, and I have a 12-burner stove with 2 ovens. And he says to me, "What'd they say? What'd Sam say?" I said, "Sam said they're going to put us in a 20-store test. They're ordering 4,000 brownie cheesecakes. I have to get this is like early January. He said, I have to roll by June 1st. It was time he was giving me to get it in there because it's going to be their summer rollout. And I had to be into the Daymark DC in Dallas for all of it at one time. He's going to give a PO for all of them." And he goes, "Well, what did you tell him?" I said, "I told him yes." He goes, "Well, how are you going to do that? You got 2 ovens and one's broke." And I said, "I have no idea, man, but we're going to figure this out." And so, I had a guy named Lee.
Let's listen to David. Think about what I'm hearing so far, David, is you didn't wait for everything to be in place to go take action.
No, not at all.
Action. Exactly. So yeah, I want everyone to hear that. So go for it, David.
Well, let me explain something. It's in my ignorance what I don't know that I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? I'm ignorant to the fact that where this is all going to go. I have no idea. I'm just going to take a shot at it. I want to do better than just the restaurant. I want to grow the idea. And how else can I make income? I now have Dory and Sue I have to take care of. So I've got a bigger play here. So I'm thinking, what else can I do? And I'm thinking one store when I go up there. I'm thinking 50 cheesecakes a week out of my restaurant. But when he orders more than that, I'm not going to tell him, well, I only have a little restaurant. I can't do that. I'm going to say, okay, let's do it. So then I've got a guy named Lee Crump. Lee Crump comes in every Wednesday at 8 o'clock, him and his wife, Melanie, or a group. And they have a standing reservation. They have their own table. It's always set for them. And they've been doing that since I had Lena Thompson as a waiter all the way through the restaurant. When I owned the restaurant, they were always loyal to them coming in. So I walk out and I told Lee about this, and he goes, "Hey, well, let me know what they say." So I come back and I tell him what he says. He goes, "Well, hey, let me fund it with you." I said, "You want to back me?" He goes, "Yeah, let's get this thing done." And he said, "How you gonna do this and do the restaurant though?" And I said, "Well, I don't know how because we don't have enough space here." He goes, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, look," I said, "if you want to back me, Lee, I can train Larry to be the chef, and I can open up a small bakery, and we can start producing this for Sam's." He goes, "Yeah, and then we can see where it goes from there." And I said, "You want to do that?" He goes, "Yeah, absolutely. Let's get this thing done." So he was my mentor at that point, and he helped me build this bakery. He funded the beginning of the bakery. So then what I did was I trained Larry to take over as my chef. We hired another waiter, and I gave my restaurant to Larry the way Don gave it to me. So I was able to gift Larry something that somebody had gifted me.
Wow.
And put my brother in business. Yeah. Which is awesome. And I was able to do that because Lee was wanting to back me. So we got that going. We hit that order, got the orders going. And then a guy came in that sells ingredients. And now you got to think, I've been in the restaurant business. So I know restaurant connections. I don't know just bakery distributors. I know restaurant guys like Labatt and Cisco's and those kind of guys that are broadband distributors, and that's why I'm buying my stuff from to make these brand cheesecakes for Sam's. And the guy comes and goes, "Hey man, I know who you're buying from. You need to be buying from a guy like me. I'm a bakery guy. We only do flour, sugar, eggs, oil. We do all bakery stuff. And because of that, we've got really great pricing. We're much more competitive than who you're buying from now. They're a broadband distributor. You need to work with a very sophisticated distributor who does your product." And I said, "Well, Kevin," I said, "that's a great idea." And I said, but I've known Sam or Todd for a long time. So for me to tell him goodbye, that'd be kind of tough on me. So I said, "What else have you got? What else can you bring?" He goes, "Well," he said, "how about this?" He said, "We started distributing to Starbucks. You heard of those guys?" I said, "Yeah, it's a little coffee company." He goes, "Yeah, we have 30 stores in Texas that we're distributing to, but we're having to FedEx." Think about this, back in the 90s. We're FedExing these pound cakes from Brooklyn, New York. And he said, they're having all kinds of problems doing that. He said, "What if I could give you those 4 or 5 pound cakes and you recreate them?" Because they like the flavor profiles, but they're not happy with the pound cakes. "Could you recreate those pound cakes?" And I said, "Yeah." So I created the lemon pound cake, the banana bread, the pumpkin bread. We did orange raspberry or orange poppy seed. We did plain marble chocolate. So I created a bunch of product. And in about 3 weeks, I go to present it to him, and he has a guy named Paul Gabrielson there. Paul Gabrielson he had Texas, New Mexico, and Louisiana, and he was the RFM, Regional Food and Beverage Director over all the Starbucks. And I left the meeting, and he approved all those pound cakes, and now we have to go into business to start making these pound cakes for Starbucks.
Wow.
In order to do that, I'm buying all my ingredients from Kevin, and then I make the product, and I sell it back to him, and he sells it to Starbucks. And that's how we got into Starbucks, and how we got going to Starbucks.
Wow. So Dave, tell me, like, you're in Starbucks now. Tell me, like, when you're close to exiting, how many stores were you in, and what type of revenue were you doing?
Well, with Starbucks, it was a little over 130 million. We were in 17,000 stores. We were doing 120,000 loaves, pound cakes, every day.
Wow.
25,000. Yeah.
Crazy.
We were doing around. Yeah, we were. I remember in that little bakery in Big Springs man, if we get to 300 pound cakes a day, we'll be rocking it, man. 300 pound cakes a day. We had 3 lines. We had several 100,000 square feet of production, just transportation. We were doing about 90 trucks a week out of our plant. We did about 5 million pounds of dough in our plant every week.
Wow.
So
I'm always reminded of that scripture: "Do not despise the day of small things." Then this took time. Yet you took action, and that's what I always tell people: if you don't like the way your life is going right now, action creates clarity. And the more I see that every time I hear your story, that the more action you took, the more windows it opened up, the more doors it opened up, right? But the thing about you kept walking through them, you kept opening up the windows. You didn't stop. And now, you exited the company, and now you're actually helping other entrepreneurs. You're like, it's amazing, man. I'm so honored to know you, man. And it's an honor to help you with this system that we're going to help change the world, man. So here's what I want to do, David. If you have some time, I want to open up. If you guys, I know some of the people here have some questions. So James, maybe you have a question. Tyler, you might have a question. And so, do you have any specific question, maybe a business question or personal question? Yeah.
Can I share one thing before we start that question?
I would love for you to. Of course. Love for you.
But I want to clarify. This is now 10 years from the time I had that Take Care of Jordan Sue. I want the audience to understand this. We took action. I hired her. I put her on. We got going. When they asked me to create the pound cakes for Starbucks, I got those recipes from Sue. That's her banana bread, her pumpkin bread. America fell in love with her product. I created the lemon pound cake, but all the other product with the coffee cakes, I got them out of her cookbooks and that are her personal recipes. Now think about what God did. He's asking me to take care of them. I'll be there time. You're going to start a company. I'm thinking I got to mow yards for that. I look back and God said, no. I want you to take this time to take care of them. I trust you with the money because you're going to be their retirement. She's going to give you later on what you're going to take that America's going to love. I know that, and we blew up in Starbucks. We're one of the first national players because of all those low cakes in all of Starbucks. And it was Sue's recipe. So I want everybody to understand, when you say yes to God and you also put that thing forward, and I didn't, part of me was, I was going to start a company, God said, and I'm going to become wealthy. I am not stopping until this happens. I'm driven because I have a calling and I'm going to go through it. And people, I need to understand, no is not a good answer. You're driven to be successful and do it. You don't have to. You're gifted to do something God's called you to do, and He's gifted to do. Find out what that gift and calling is, and then get after it. Go after, get it done, and He'll continue opening doors as long as you're being faithful to Him. Right?
Amen, brother.
But and I took care of Jory and Sue until they passed away. I built a home for them behind my home. When they needed nursing care and they needed 24-hour care, I funded all of that. They passed away in that bed, in that home. They never worried about anything. I put them on a salary until the day they died. They were all on salaries. So God really took care of them, and He blessed me to be able to do that beyond my wildest dreams.
Beautiful.
So I want them to know that I'm not a self-made man. I'm a God-made man with a lot of mentors around me. I didn't do this on my own. I had lots of people. I had partners and leadership teams that came in. I have guys. I have second and third generations now. Yes. Working for my family, working for my new companies.
I love that part. Oh my gosh, I love that part. How you were obedient, but you also took care of the first time it was really taking care of Jelinda's parents. That was really your assignment, and because you were obedient to that, and you took care of that as you honored her parents, and then God just blessed you and kept opening up. But the thing is, you took action. And, God loves action takers, right? They love that, right? If you don't know what you're going to do, just keep taking action. You'll figure it out, right? And so, I would love for maybe a couple of questions from people here in the audience to ask you. So, Tyler, if you have a question, James, you have a question, Ken, if you have a question, this is a time to ask David. He's an extremely busy guy, and so I appreciate him. I'm going to see you next couple of weeks, which is going to be great. And so I'm going to spend some time with David in Dallas with. We also have another mentor that we have kind of the same mentor. That's taking us another week. So James, do you have a question for David? Tyler, you have a question for David? Please unmute. Anybody, if you have a question, please unmute. I would love to hear some of your thoughts and maybe some feedback. Some of the things you've got, some aha moments listening to it. Maybe not a question, but maybe a comment. So James, you have a comment or question? Go for it.
I just have a comment. Hey, brother.
Hey.
This is Tui.
Tui.
I've been listening all this morning, and David, what an amazing story that you just told. And I have to take a breather here, just thinking about how you started this story and the difficult times growing up, and with what you've done to succeed. Yes. And courage does not demand perfection. But when we sharpen our perfection, we become more courageous and we take actions on the things that we do. And I'm just blown away at your story. And I just want to make a comment about that because it's totally amazing. And you're such an inspiration to so many people. I hope some people will be able to read your book and hear your story, because it'll inspire so many people. Not only that, it was about the gift of giving.
Yes.
I mean, the gift of giving, and without even, and not only that, you're asking God, because even I'm sure all of us here, we're always turning to Him because we don't want to lean on our own understanding. But what an inspiration this morning. Thank you very much, David.
Thank you, Tui.
Thank you for your kind words. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Tui.
Yep.
Joe, you have a question, a comment? James, Tyler, Ken? I would love to hear it. Go, James.
Hey, I love your story. It means a lot to me because I feel like I've had a lot of those instances in my life where I wanted to shadow someone I was encouraged by, because I kind of knew their story. But I feel like in my own way, I had special needs class when I was growing up because I had a reading comprehension issue too.
Whoa.
I love math, I love science, but reading was just fun for me. Uh, I love it. I love it. But I have a heart to like I work for a business right now. I've been there 7 years. I tried to, learn everything I can from my boss because I love what he does because he really takes care of his employees, me. Like he's hooked me up for missions trips. He's hooked me up like even in my marriage where we had some medical stuff coming up. And I love that part of my boss. But one of the things that I struggle with is like where I'm at in my business, where I'm at working for him, I feel like I've hit a ceiling. I can't get any further higher, you know? And outside of that, I'm so discouraged outside of work because I don't feel like I have direction outside of work. So what do? I play on my phone, you know? And so it's like I want to be great. I want to do things. I want to be able to love on people the way my boss kind of does for me and other employees and friends. But it's like I don't know my first step to doing things, you know? So I love your story. In my mind, when we tell stories, we tell the best parts of it instead of like in my mind, I'm waiting for you to tell me, man, 2 years in marriage, my wife had an accident, then all this the my stove broke at work. We did this, but it's like I don't know your struggle in that. I understand it took 10 years for you to get to the Starbucks, but the highs and lows mean a lot to me instead of just the highs because I feel like I'm just stuck in the lows, you know? And so it's like I love your story. I know God has made me for more, much more, but I have no idea where my footing is in life. You know, so this next step is very foggy for me. You know? So I'm very encouraged. I'm very encouraged in your story. I love it. And I know that God has made me for greatness too. So
David,
thanks for letting me share.
can you share that? Because James, trust me,
That's
there's
a great point.
So David, if you can share, answer. I know you have a great story for this. I know you do.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And so that was James.
That was James.
Yeah, James. That's a really good point. And in fact, when I speak on stage, I talk more about the difficulties that I deal with than I do all the successes. I know we have a short time here. We want to get through a story, but so you're gonna let me tell one of the stories you know that I had to struggle with, right?
Yes.
So that's what we'll talk about. So when we were in Big Springs, Texas, and we just got launched out to do this, and we just got this opportunity with Starbucks in a few of those with Kevin, and we had like 30 stores we're running through. The product was doing so well in the stores that they wanted to expand me into 5 states and maybe even do a national thing. This is in 97 or 90s. Yeah, 1997. Okay. And so in order to do that, their quality control person from Seattle had to come in and do a walkthrough. It's called a food safety audit. Okay. I get a phone call like on a Thursday from my distributor, Kevin. He says, hey, they're going to be there on Monday and they're coming in to see your HACCP program. James, I had no idea what a HACCP program was. Never heard of that term. Didn't know. I'm a restaurant guy. I'm a little cook in a restaurant. I don't even see myself as a chef. I'm just a cook. And I'm making these cakes and Starbucks wants to go national. That's great. But now 2 weeks later, I get kicked in the stomach because I have to have a HACCP program. I know nothing about what that is. How do you do your recalls on all your food? How do you track all your foods? How do I know where your pecans are coming from, your flour's coming from? When you put in my product, it goes to my store. If there's a problem, how do you trace it back? I'm like, I have no idea what we're talking about. And I got a weekend to figure this out. So Kevin has a friend of his named Steve O'Donnell, and I got to meet him. He's a bakery consultant. So I met with him on a Friday, and he walked in this warehouse. He goes, oh, my gosh, you make cakes in this place? I had no idea. I was in a warehouse. I had insulation on the top of the on the top. You're supposed to have a drop ceiling in there. I had insulation that could actually be falling down on my product. I have no idea. We live in this warehouse with 2 dogs and my daughter. We live in the warehouse. So we have no idea what we're doing. You talk about difficulty. We couldn't afford rent, so we had to live in a warehouse in one of the offices there, right? That's the start of this thing. We had wood tables we built, wood tables in there. So I'm learning all this stuff, and I'm about to have this person come in. They're gonna shut me down, not give me an opportunity to grow my business. And so Steve says, here's what you have to do. We're going to put up a bunch of plastic everywhere and tell them you're in the middle of putting drop ceilings in, remodeling. You got to get all the wood tables out, put in stainless steel tables, get this plumbing in. So I said, I'll be back on Monday. And actually the meeting was postponed until Tuesday. So we took the weekend and we worked 24 hours a day for those 3 or 4 days. And we took everything out, reorganized everything, put stainless steel tables in, kind of did the best we could. And then, while we're talking through that, right, Steve goes, you don't even have a metal detector. You don't have anything to track your food to see if it's raw. They're going to want metal detectors and everything else in here. And I said, Steve, you know what? I got a metal detector. He goes, you have a metal detector? And everything you're going to have, you have a metal detector? Why would you even have a metal detector? He said, well, if you do, get that thing in line. Okay, put it in line so the cakes cannot run any through it so we can detect metal. I said, okay, I got that. So I call my dad. I say, hey, Dad, you know the metal detector you use for coining from finding? He said, I need that. He goes, what do you need it for? I said, I got to put it over cakes. This is how naive I am, okay? So the next Monday when Steve comes in, I'm so proud of myself. I had everything he wanted done, and I have a PVC pipe over where the cakes are going through the conveyor, and I have this big old metal detector, right? When you do coins with, duct tape to this thing, turned on. And I'm proud as I can be. And he walks and goes, what the hell is that? And I said, it's my metal detector. He goes, you have got to be kidding me. Take that thing down. You have no, I have no idea what I just stepped in with you, man. And so I said, well, I thought you want a metal detector. He goes, yeah, but that's not what we're talking about. Okay. So I take it down and he walks in, he sets everything up for me. Now this guy has 25 years experience. He understands HACCP, he understands food tracing, that kind of stuff. So he's going to be there in that meeting. So when Jan and Paul show up, okay, they're sitting there talking to Steve. They're not talking to me because everything they ask about HACCP, Steve explains it to them. And they all know how to talk this language. They know food safety, they know quality surface, that kind of stuff. They're talking to this whole thing. I have no idea. I'm just letting Steve run the show. And at the end of it, he's going to tell me how do we do? Are we going to move forward? And at the very end of it, she asked me for my CFO and my food manufacturing license, my Texas State food manufacturing license. Okay. I said, well, you know, since we're doing the remodel, he said, I took it off the wall to remodel everything. She goes, well, that has to be on the wall all the time. I didn't see it when I came in. I was wondering where that's at. I said, yeah, it's stored in one of my storage units in the back of the box. Let me go see if I can find it. Okay. So I leave the room. I go back there and I walk around for 20 minutes. I come back and I say, you know what? I can't find the box with the manufacturing license. As soon as I can, I'll get it to you. She says, yeah, as soon as you can, get a copy and fax it to me. So we have to have that on file. And then Steve, if you can get all these other issues fixed here, we can let him go into the 5 states out of here. But he's had all these issues done, and I'll have to come back and do another inspection. And let's give you 90 days because Paul needs us in like the next 120 days. And I said, yeah. So we're all excited because of this opportunity. I go home and my wife says, so what happened? I said, well, we're.
Oh, we lost him. Hold on a minute. Let me text him, guys. Hold on a minute. Yep, I want to let him back in.
It's getting so good.
Yeah, oh man, there's more and more. You're gonna have an opportunity. Here he goes. He's back. There he is.
Am I good?
Yeah, I got you back. Yeah, let me
brother.
Yeah, let me make you spotlight. There you are.
And that's what happened. So at the end, that's what happened.
You're sideways though. Yeah,
no.
You have to get. There you go.
Get sideways.
There you go.
Oh, that's wild. Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to change how I'm sitting. There we go. That work?
Yes, yeah. That was a great stuff to finish it up, man.
All right, so they're going through the thing, and I get home. I tell my wife, I said, "Look, I didn't know I needed a Texas food manufacturing license. I have a restaurant license from the city of city of Big Springs, but I don't have a Texas food manufacturing license." So I lied to them, and I lied to everybody because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know to tell them I didn't have that. And she said, "Well, what are you going to do?" I said, "Well, we can't. I got to get a Texas food manufacturing license. If we don't have that, we're out." And in fact, if I tell Lee I don't have that, and the guys we do business with now find out I don't have it, they're going to shut me down, and there's fines I could be paying. I had no idea what this was a major problem like this, right? So she goes, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I have no idea, but I got to figure this thing out." So I continue to lie. They're like, "Hey, we need that manufacturer license." I said, "Yeah, we're looking for it." And so I continue to lie for like the next 3 or 4 days. And then my wife dream, and she wakes me up after her dream. She said, "David," she said, "I want you to know the Lord spoke to me in my dream last night." And I said, "Okay." And she said, "He can't honor a man who's lying."
Wow.
Okay. He can't honor me who's lying. He can only honor a man who tells the truth. And if you continue to lie, we're going to lose everything. But if you tell the truth, the Lord showed me you're going to be one of the top people at Starbucks. You'll be on their food committees, on their teams, and you're going to grow you're going to grow extremely well. But you have to come clean and tell them the truth. Wow. And I told her, I said, "You know what? You need to go back to bed and get a better answer in the dream because that's just stupid." She said, "No, that's the story. That's what we were told." So I thought, oh man. So several days go by, and now I can't eat, I can't pray, I can't do anything because I know I'm living this lie. I know I can't fix this problem. And I said, "Lord," I said, "Look, I blew it. We're going to lose everything. I get it, and I'm so sorry this is going to happen, but I don't know what to do." And I said, "The only thing I can do is go tell Lee." And I said, "But I'd rather tell the truth and have our prayer life back, so I can pray to you honestly instead of lying to everybody, knowing I can't pray, asking you to help me do something that's deceptive. I can't live this way anymore." And for those 5 days, guys, I couldn't eat. I was sick to my stomach. I felt really bad, not only because of the lying, but because my relationship with God changed. Yeah. For me, not that he didn't love me as a son. I changed, and I couldn't be in this relationship. I couldn't feel good about this. So I go tell Lee. I don't know what's going to happen is Lee's going to shut everything down and go, "Well, I can't believe you did this." Lee says to me, he goes, "Well, I'm sure other people have made this mistake before. Let's just tell them." "Did you tell Steve yet?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, tell Steve. He's the consultant, and tell him, and then we'll work this out. I'm sure they'll work it out. And if not, look, if you lose Starbucks, there's a lot of things we can do in that bakery. So I'm backing you, buddy. Stay with it." That's the first hurdle I had to get over. I hope, well, at least I've got that a little bit of a background in. So then I call Paul. I call Steve, and I tell him. He's like, "Good." I call Paul Gabelson. And he goes, "I can't believe, Dave, you represent yourself as a Christian. You've been lying this whole time. I look foolish. Janice looks foolish up in Seattle, thinking you got this license. We're going to try to grow your business. And now we're not going to do it." He said, "I'm not going to buy any of your ingredients you have that you've got on hand for me. I'm only going to buy what you have that's made for me because I can't afford to go out of stock. So how many pound cakes do you have?" And I said, "I have like 400 or 500 frozen ready to go." And she goes, "I'm buying those, but I'm never going to talk to you again." And I'm like, wow. I get it. He was very, very direct and very demanding and tell me how bad I was. And I felt so bad. And I went home. I told Dylan, I said, "Yeah, it's over as far as Starbucks goes." I said, we're not going to be able to grow. And I said, I don't know what we're going to do here. We'll Lee said he'll help work with me to help figure us out. We'll start trying to figure the sales out. And so then I talked to Steve. I said, "Steve, I really need a consultant. I need you to be my business partner instead of a consultant. We have an opportunity. We want to grow this business. You understand this business. I know I'm not smart enough to have the HACCP program. I don't know that. I don't understand anything about food safety. We're going to run, if I do grow this business, I'm going to run all these issues again. I'm a product developer and a sales guy. That's what I do, and I do it very well. If you come in as a partner and Lee and I are willing to give up shares of our company, you have to vet for 3 years to do this. But if you do that and you take over that part of the production runs and that kind of a thing, let me do the development work and sales work. We'll give you a partnership it won't cost you anything, and we'll move our plant to San Antonio, Texas, where you live."
Beautiful.
He agreed to that.
So cool.
Okay, now here's where the kicker gets good. Paul's never going to talk to me again. We opened up our plant about a year later up there, and we're making product for Albertsons and a few other things. We're growing it, not as big as we thought. We're doing a few things, some restaurant stuff. And Paul Gabelson calls Steve, He said, Steve, he goes, we're having a problem with one of the cake companies we do business with, and they have metal in their cakes, and they won't buy a metal detector. And he goes, and I'm in the office with Steve across the desk, and he goes, do you guys have a metal detector? And he leans over like this with the phone and goes, will you buy a metal detector? I said, absolutely. And he goes, okay. He goes, yeah, we'll have one. We can get one in here. So he explains everything we're doing. And he goes, well, look, he said, we'd like for you to do these coffee cakes to do, and they're low-fat coffee cakes. It's apple, cranberry, and a banana one. And he said, if you can do these coffee cakes, and I'm going to send it to some of the manufacturers, but we're going to give you a shot, Steve, at doing this. And they really love Steve because Steve knows what he's talking about, right? So I developed the product. Within a week, I have it to them. Within 2 weeks, they're planning to come tour the plant. Okay. So I'm standing on the front porch of Steve, just as happy as I can be that they're coming to look at this. And Steve gets a phone call, pulls his phone out of his pocket, and he's talking to Paul, and hangs up. He goes, Dave, he goes, Paul, and they don't want to see you. They're asking if you'd leave. They'll come tour the plant, and they'll meet with me, and they'll taste the product, but they don't want to see you. I'm like, wow, seriously? So I had to leave my own facility to walk away from that, right? And they came in, they approved the facility, they approved the product, and we started selling the Starbucks again. Wow. About 6 months later, Paul calls me and he says, hey, he goes, and this is the call. I said, hey, he goes, David. I said, yeah. He goes, I want a chocolate pound cake. I want chocolate fudge on top with ganache. I want 3 kinds of chocolate in it. You need to be in Louisiana next Tuesday with this product to meet with me and Allison. And we're going to, Allison, I said to Janice earlier, choose another person. Allison was the main person in QA for Starbucks. So we're going to meet with you, and we need to talk to you, and we need to talk to Steve, and show me this product. I said, okay. So we got it ready. I developed it for him. We go to Louisiana. He takes us out to a restaurant called Galator's. He looks at the product. He likes the product. And I'm sitting there the whole time trying to apologize to him for what I did 2 years previous to this, right? And he said, I don't want to hear about it. We're here to tell you something. And I said, okay. So I'm thinking I'm going to get reamed again. And he said, Allison, tell Dave what you told me. And she said, David, let's be real clear. That building in Big Spring, Texas should have been condemned. Okay. I should have never even thought about letting you produce out of there. But when we came back to see the new plant, and the way you did this, Steve was telling us you would not stop. You wanted everything SQF. You wanted all the hazard program in. You want every food safety thing that we're doing. You're doing this as though you're a $100 million company. You're going overboard. You're hiring staff and a team. You are putting this out there to where what you've done is amazing. He goes, I will tell people to put a sneeze guard up or fix a hole in the roof, and they don't do that when I come back for inspection, or they kind of halfway do it. What you've done here, I want you to know, it's the pinnacle of Starbucks manufacturing. And what we want to do is set a relationship with you where we can bring in other manufacturers to tour your facility so they can see what a Starbucks manufacturer is.
Wow.
And bring you back and put you on a national program with us one more time because of what we did. So God restored that entire thing for me. It took a lot of work, a lot of effort. I had to give up shares of my company, right? All these things are not easy to do. They're difficult things to do. Telling the truth, but God honored the dream Linda had 2 years before, right?
Oh, easy.
And we became the largest supplier for them. That's when we exploded. But those were very difficult years for me, very hard years. But I never gave up on, I want Starbucks back. I was told I'm going to get Starbucks back. Steve and everybody said, you're not going to get it. You need to give up Starbucks, quit fighting for it. And I didn't. I fought to get that back. And even though I wasn't the first one called, Steve was, I didn't give up on Starbucks because the Lord told me I'm going to have that. So it was a challenging 2 years, very difficult to live with, but we did. And then we exploded. We started the gingerbread loaf and we just blew up.
Boom. So, man, Jay's actually a real good friend of mine. He's actually in my men's group, David. We're actually very, very close. Him and his wife, beautiful man. She's, I think this, so you hear James, it's not been easy, man. Not been easy at all. And so that's why, David, I know you're busy. You can totally stay on, but I want to share with them now how you implemented it. I'm going to show them how to implement so they can accomplish what you've done in life. So you can totally stay on if you want, David, but we thank you so much, my friend. I'm looking forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Thank you, David. Guys, if you guys say thank you to David, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
David. Thank you, David.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, David.
Oh my God, David, thank you. I love you, bro. Tell the line we said hi. We'll see you soon. Okay, brother?
Hey, buddy. Thanks, guys.
Sure. All right.
Bye.
Guys, so what I want to do now is David, thank you so much, man.
I'm trying to figure out how to get off. So I'm trying.
No worries.
This is another different thing, guys. I am not computer literate or phone literate. So let me figure out what I'm doing here.
Cool. Have a great day.
Okay, I don't have. Oh, there it is. Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye, David.
Hey, if you like this podcast, please listen to my other podcast. I interviewed a very successful person in the music industry who has over 10 franchises. I also interviewed another gentleman that had over 10 franchises in the coffee world. I interviewed some very successful men that can show you how they overcame their obstacles. Because have you ever suffered a challenge in life? Have you ever suffered like bankruptcy? Have you ever suffered losing every part of your wealth? If you never back up, please listen to my other episode to help you get what you want.
Thank you for watching. Please watch my other video on the millionaire book publisher who has helped over 400 authors become bestsellers. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Kalani Vale out.